Hey there, welcome to day one of the 30-day Leadership Visibility Challenge. Congratulations for signing up and for actually starting by watching this very first video. Most people who sign up for challenges do not partake, but to really move forwards faster, because that's what I like for all of us to do, forwards faster and easier actually, you have to participate. So congratulations for getting to this point. In this first training, I want to cover off the 3 pillars that I see make up all of our leadership skills. Now, there are many ways I could have constructed this. It's taken me years to figure out what I think are the real 3 core fundamental pillars, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. And I want you to use this to understand where you need to be focusing in the next 30 days, because there's going to be so many nuggets of wisdom. There's going to be so many things you can use in multiple different ways, but to really take action and get traction, you need to be focusing on what's going to make the biggest difference for you. That's what we're talking about today, an initial assessment of where you are, plus building a little bit of self-awareness and reflection skills in there. So without further ado, let's talk about these 3 pillars. Pillar number 1 is communication. Might not come as a surprise, but it underpins everything in our leadership. It's actually why I have an entire module dedicated to communication in my academy that I do with people. It's very obvious, okay, great, but it covers things like right communications, right place, right time. But it goes much deeper than that. It's about having confident communication, not feeling crippled. I was having a conversation with a client just the other day about how she was feeling that her lack of confidence meant that she wasn't able to think on her feet and therefore communicate thinking on her feet. So again, confident communication, having the confidence to have those challenging conversations, the conversations we really don't want to be having. Also, reading people. Communication is as much about reading people and receiving communication as it is about communicating outward. All of this builds into your communication toolkit as a leader. And one of the most important pieces of communication is your ability to inspire and influence. Influence, I nearly made a pillar in its own right, but I felt like that covers off everything that we're going to be talking about. The 3 pillars, influence comes into all 3 of them actually. And that ability as a communicator to get people to follow you, to just take action rather than using the carrot and the stick approach, which is the traditional management approach. But that influence piece and inspiration piece is what sets apart the standout leaders from everybody else. So that's your first pillar, communication. And your homework here is, I want you to give yourself a score of 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, where 1 is needs a lot of work and 5 is I'm already outstanding. I'm basically a pro at this. None of us are probably there, right? I don't think communication is ever done. I think we can always improve, but I would love for you to give yourself a score 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And that is your score of your starting point for this 30-day challenge on communication. If you feel able to, I would love it if you went and shared that in the Slack channel for this challenge. Tell us where you are right now. Tell us where you're planning to go. But let's move on to the second pillar, self-awareness, or just awareness actually. I think there's awareness as a whole, like what's going on around us, and then self-awareness, which is one of the things that most of us really struggle with. We think we're okay at it. The average person is terrible at self-awareness. It's one of those things I don't think we're ever taught to develop when we're younger, and it's something that really sets apart great senior leaders. And it underpins so much of what you do as a leader, how you control your communications, how your body language impacts others around you. Self-awareness is just fundamental in order to influence everybody. It is also how you can identify and therefore avoid burnout risks. Actually, if you know, for example, that your resilience has been tested, are you putting in place a resiliency toolkit in order to avoid burnout? Are you aware that certain things trigger you? Are you putting mitigation in place? All of those kind of things really help you not just become a better leader, but help you become a sustainable leader. It's also about dealing with self-sabotaging behaviors or imposter syndrome, things like perfectionism. A lot of the time, to deal with things like perfectionism or feeling you have to do everything by yourself, you have to dial up your self-awareness and realize that that's a limiting behavior, a limiting belief. Something is going on, and to let go of it, the first step is awareness that it's the thing going on, and also a greater awareness of those around you and how your behaviors, although they're a lot about yourself, How are they impacting those around you, especially as a leader? A lot of the time, leaders contract when we're nervous, and that actually damages our team's ability to thrive and excel, and ultimately damages our ability to have a great team. Starts with self-awareness and greater awareness. And again, also underpinning this one is influence. I did tell you it's across the 3 pillars. Great self-awareness allows you how to read the room, which ties into the final piece of awareness, which is executive presence. Executive presence is a term that's not widely understood, but it really is the ability to walk into a room and get people to follow you. It's the way you exude confidence, and people just have confidence in you. And that starts with your awareness. I, for example, struggled with this one for a while because I had a bit of reputation for being a fixer. I can solve problems. I would see a disaster unfolding, everybody else would be frozen, and I would come in and I would fix. What I wasn't aware of, because my awareness wasn't dialed up, was I was coming in as a bit of a whirlwind, and I was like, boom, 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 get this fixed. I was leaving in my wake people that were all over the place emotionally, not able to follow through, not able to help me actually on this journey. And there reached a point in my career where I had the ideas to fix the problems, but actually I could no longer do it by myself. We all reach that point as leaders. If you're not aware of the wake you're leaving behind, how can you expect people to follow you? That all starts with self-awareness, and then how you're showing up impacts those around you. And ultimately, that's what underpins executive presence. So I could talk about self-awareness and broader awareness all day, but I would love, again, for you to give yourself a score of 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. 1 being, needs a lot of work. My self-awareness is bottoming out. I'm never aware of my emotions until it's too late. I'm not aware of the impact I have on people until it's too late. 5 being totally outstanding, totally have complete control of when I have perfectionism wanting to creep in, and I'm able to take control and change it. I'm fully aware of the words that come out of my mouth and how they have an impact on those around me. That would be all the way up at 5. Give yourself a score, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, if you felt able to, I would love for you to share your score in the community Slack channel. The 3rd pillar is strategy. So yes, strategy is a very, very big portion of leadership, and something that's very heavily misunderstood. It includes not just the development of strategy, which is I think what a lot of people focus on, although a lot of people also don't do because they didn't have time for it, but also the execution strategy. Because I see 2 groups of people. Actually, I see 3 groups of people. I see the people who love the, know that in reality they should be spending time on strategy, but they get stuck in reactive mode. They don't have time to put together a plan and actually think through all the pieces of that plan and how they're all going to link together and what needs to happen. So it's their priorities are always changing because they're in reactive mode. It's about who's shouting the loudest in their email, on the calls, in the meetings, in the Slack channel. And that's what gets their attention. Most of us live in that for the majority of our careers. If you want to up level, you need to move out of that. And then I see 2 groups of people on average. There's a 3rd group, a 4th group, I suppose, if we're including those reactive people. The first group is the people who are really good at developing strategy. They are quite happy to closet themselves away for a couple of weeks, a day, whatever it takes. The higher up you go, the longer it takes, because the more complicated your strategy is going to be, the bigger your organization, the more complicated the strategy is going to be. And they are really good at developing that. And then I see another type of person that's really good at strategy execution. They get it done. They take a strategy and they will deliver. Now, the reality is, as a leader, you will have a strength. All of us have one strength or the other. Very, very few people. In fact, I'd almost say it's mutually exclusive. You can't be really, really good at both. But what you need to be good at is being okay at both. Because it is not sufficient to develop strategy and it's not sufficient to just execute strategy. You need to be doing both as a leader, and that's really what ultimately will get you to the executive team. It's what's going to make a bigger impact irrespective of where you are in your career. It's how you get noticed. And it really starts with moving out of reactive mode. It really starts with recognizing nobody's ever going to give you time to do strategy. But if you don't do it, you end up with a roadmap that's all over the place. with people saying, hey, is this a definite date for delivery of this? And actually it doesn't happen because nobody took the time to really understand. It means you develop products and then have to backtrack because you didn't understand all the implications for the follow-on products. And it also is about daily strategy, being proactive and stepping away from the tactical into the what can I do today to make everything else easier in the future. Thinking long term. It's a hard skill if you're not used to doing it. Most of us don't think long term. But the higher up you get, that's ultimately what you're being paid to do. The higher up you get, the more time you need to be dedicated to strategy and strategy execution rather than reactive, what's coming down from on high that I need to respond to. You are never going to be given time in your schedule for this. And one of the first things to do is to make sure that you realize you have to have very strong boundaries to make sure strategy gets done. And you cannot fit it in 30 minutes on a Friday afternoon. This requires deep work, which is a concept I could spend hours telling you about. But it's that really hard thinking time. Now, strategy doesn't have to be complicated. If you work for a big multinational, it's going to get more complicated. But it does have to be well thought through. You have to think about all the pieces of the puzzle. And you have to think about how you're going to inspire others, influence others. That's back again. And part of strategy is understanding the vision and how you're going to use that as in your executive presence to influence those around you, get them to follow you, get them to buy into the vision that is underpinning the strategy in a way that the individuals understand. Again, this is your executive presence piece. If your ideal way to get people to follow a strategy is that they have a why for your strategy, and it's not the same why as your why or the business why. The best way to lead is to understand how each of the individuals that report to you, what motivates them, how can you get them buying into your vision. When you do that, leadership goes from being hard work to just a breeze, and it's beautiful. The final piece of the strategy puzzle is don't forget to actually get it done. Now, I've kind of emphasized this throughout, but we've all had people in our lives who are the ideas person. They walk into a room, they have 100 potentially great ideas, and they're like boom, 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 boom. They walk out and they have a bit of a reputation for never delivering, just being this ideas person. And once or twice they're amazing, but ultimately they become exhausting because they just dump ideas into a room and everybody tries to shuffle around and everybody realizes this person will never actually do. Do not be that person. What I want you to train yourself to do, and again, the higher up you are, the more important this one is, but the sooner you do it, the faster you're going to rise in your career. You need to realize, okay, I've got 100 ideas. I'm one of those. I have 100 ideas a moment. What do I actually need to do to move the needle? Why is that important? How does it fit the bigger vision? That's ultimately your strategy process. I'm kind of very much simplifying strategy down there, of course, if you've ever studied strategy. But ultimately, that's what you want to get to. And then you just announce the one or two things and you follow through. Be the follow through person, not the 100 ideas a moment person, because they do not get traction. Okay, so that's the final pillar, strategy. Again, I want to get you to give yourself a score of 1 through 5, 1 being, oh my goodness me, I'm basically in reactive mode all the time. By the way, if that's you, do not feel bad. Most of us are there until we work on this stuff. Or 5, no, I'm great at strategy. I understand where it fits in. I have the right balance. I'm great at strategy execution as well as development. Want that picture. I very much doubt you're going to be up at 5. I'm actually yet to meet somebody who is really good at all the components of strategy because I think it is really, really hard. But give yourself a score of 1 through 5 on strategy again. And if you feel able to, I would love it if you went and pop that over in the community Slack channel. If you have just found this video on YouTube and you do not know what I'm talking about, go to tonycollis.com/challenge and you can sign up, join the challenge, and join in the community Slack channel where amazing women in tech are there to lift each other up, have these conversations, and really elevate each and every one of us, because you know what? Women rising to the top makes the world a better place. We need more women in leadership, in tech in particular, for the human race to actually thrive. I will see you tomorrow for day 2, but in the meantime, have a good think about those 3 pillars: communication, awareness or self-awareness, and strategy. Bye for now.